Ernst Jünger was born on March 29, 1895, in the timber-frame town of Heidelberg, a son of middle-class Hanoverian parents whose liberal nationalism was shaped by the recently unified German Empire and the lingering romanticism of the Bildungsbürgertum. His father, Ernst Georg Jünger, managed a pharmaceutical laboratory in Hanover and stocked the family library with Goethe and the newly popular adventure serials of Karl May. Young Ernst devoured both, sensing no contradiction between the measured humanism of Weimar classicism and fantasies of Apache warriors on the prairie. That fusion of disciplined introspection and ecstatic would define his life. At 16, he ran away from the rigorous König Wilhelm Gymnasium, enlisted in the Foreign Legion without parental consent, and spent 3 months training under the Algerian sun before paternal intervention and the German consul forced his repatriation. The episode branded him in school records as dangerously romantic. Yet even teachers conceded that the boy's Latin scansion and mineralogical sketches were exceptional. The catastrophe of August 1914 arrived as a vindication of every adolescent urge for transcendence. Jünger volunteered on the first day of mobilization and, within weeks, wore the field-gray tunic of the 73rd Hanoverian Fusiliers. He was 19 when he entered the trenches near Orenville. By war's end, he had been wounded 7 times, awarded the Iron Cross First Class, and, uniquely for an infantry lieutenant who never commanded more than a company, Prussia's coveted Pour Limmerite. His diaries, kept in neat Sutherland script, even while convalescing under chloroform bandages, documented more than the customary shell bursts and lice. They noted tonal gradations of dawn on flooded parapets, the geometry of artillery trajectories, and moments when terror seemed to crystallize into superpersonal lucidity. That record became In Stalgewittern, Astra's Storm of Steel Asterisk, published in 1920, revised multiple times over 6 decades, and destined to become the single most controversial memoir in modern war literature. Unlike Remarque's pacifist elegy, All Quiet on the Western Front, Jünger's text refused moral commentary, presenting industrialized slaughter as a phenomenology of heightened perception. Critics called it proto-fascist glorification. Admirers, ranging from T. Lawrence to Jorge Luis Borges, praised its cold lyricism. Jünger himself maintained that he was neither apologist nor accuser, merely witness. Yet the book's jagged sentences, punctuated by ecstasies of steel and annihilation, resonated with a German readership humiliated by Versailles and hyperinflation. By 1923, he was a national celebrity on the nationalist right, editing Der Stahlhelm, writing in the Völkischer Beobachter, and corresponding with a young Carl Schmitt about the concept of the enemy. Still, Jünger's relationship with burgeoning National Socialism remained ambiguous. His essays of the late 1920s, Asterisk das Waldchen 125 asterisk, Der Kampf als Innererlebnis, and especially Der Arbeiter, argued that technological total mobilization would erase bourgeois categories and create a new human type forged in the furnace of machines. The Nazi Party adopted similar rhetoric, yet Jünger declined repeated invitations to stand as an NSDAP deputy. In 1932, he published Der Arbeiter with a prophetic epilogue that envisioned a planet unified by labor battalions and energy grids, but insisted that the coming order must transcend racial chauvinism. Joseph Goebbels labeled him a militarist without politics, a verdict that both attracted and repelled Nazi courtiers. When Hitler seized power in 1933, Jünger retired to the village of Goslar, refusing any official literary prize and turning down editorships subsidized by the propaganda ministry. He cultivated lizards in terrariums, translated the Iliad, and wrote the allegorical novella Auf den Marmerklippen, 1939, which depicted two scholar brothers watching a serene province corrupted by a demonic Grossforstmeister, whose followers unleash cultic violence. German readers instantly read the subtext. Hitler was the sadder leader, the brown shirts his savage foresters, and the marble cliffs an eroding bastion of classical humanism. The book circulated with official approval. Censors either missed or tolerated the allegory, but clandestinely nourished conservative opposition circles. Drafted again in 1941 as an army captain, Jünger served as an intelligence officer in occupied Paris. His wartime diary, later published as Strahlen, recorded soirees with Picasso and Cocteau, staff briefings on the Eastern Front, and cryptic conversations with anti-Hitler conspirators. On July 20th, 1944, while Stauffenberg's bomb detonated in the Wolfschanz, Jünger was compiling casualty lists in Rue Saint-Dominique. He was interrogated afterward. Gestapo files suggest Himmler personally vetoed his arrest, but escaped punishment. His eldest son, Ernst, a Luftwaffe cadet implicated in distribution of anti-Nazi leaflets, was executed by the SS in November 1944, a wound that would bleed through the father's later writings. Post-war denazification tribunals classified Jünger as entlastet, exonerated, yet his reputation remained radioactive for decades. He retreated to Wilflingen, a Swabian hamlet, and reinvented himself as entomological sage, cataloging 14,000 beetle specimens and publishing philosophical diaries that braided reflections on psychedelic voyages. He experimented with mescaline alongside Albert Hofmann, with aphorisms about nuclear deterrence. Works such as Heliopolis, 1949, Glycern Bienen, 1957, and Jumswil, 1977, mapped dystopian futures where technocratic tyrannies coexist with inward freedoms accessed through narrative and myth. Hannah Arendt considered him the most consistently probing witness of European nihilism, while French post-structuralists adopted him as precursor to theories of the sovereign exception. Jünger's centenary in 1995 prompted a reassessment. German President Roman Herzog visited Wilflingen to present him with the Federal Cross of Merit. Chancellor Helmut Kohl praised him as a European reconciler. Academic conferences revisited Der Arbeiter as a diagnostic, not prescriptive, treatise on technological leveling. Environmental philosophers cited his concept of the Waldgänger, the inner emigrant who retreats mentally from total systems, as a blueprint for ecological resistance. When Jünger died on February 17, 1998, at 102, newspapers across the ideological spectrum acknowledged him as the last witness linking Wilhelmine cavalry charges to the age of genetic engineering. The question of Jünger's legacy remains acute. Was he an unrepentant militarist, intoxicated by danger, whose stylized violence paved an aesthetic on-ramp for fascism, or a forensic diagnostician of modernity, whose pitiless gaze forced Europe to confront the spiritual costs of mechanized life. His own self-portrayal shifted. The 1920s stormtrooper of the mind gave way to the 1950s visionary of forests and glass bees, and finally to the octogenarian mystic seeking in LSD-framed epiphanies a reconciliation with the cosmos he once tried to command. Yet a through line endures: the conviction that extremity, whether in war, deserts, or hallucinogens, can tear open the second reality behind quotidian surfaces, revealing a realm where human agency and fate negotiate on more primordial terms. For contemporary readers, Jünger poses a paradox. His sentences gleam with moral detachment even as they chronicle slaughter. His praise of disciplined order coexists with a lifelong defiance of mass ideologies. His apparent reverence for power masks a Gnostic quest for personal sovereignty. To dismiss him as merely reactionary is to ignore a thinker who anticipated by decades the anxieties of our data-saturated, drone-surveilled, climate-stressed epoch. To canonize him uncritically is to mistake aesthetic precision for ethical exoneration. Ernst Jünger's true importance may lie precisely in that tension. He forces us to weigh beauty forged in fire against the human capacity to wield fire responsibly, a reckoning no technological civilization can avoid.